All right, go ahead, people. Dr. Nicole McCarty here. Y'all, I'm back. Thank you. Hey, good people. How are you? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Dr. Nicole McCarty. Today we're going to have a chat, right? I recently took our family, our kids, our family, to South Africa for 30 days. I'm going to tell you why. So check this out. Most people take a vacation to another country, right? You visit the tourist spots, you eat the food, you take the photos, you do all things, and then you go home, right? Yay, good time to go home. What happens when you take your entire family to another continent, but not for vacation? Instead, you go to see if it could actually become home. So that's what we did, right? 30 days, 2 kids, my mom, a lot of luggage, way too much luggage. I'm going to do another video on that. We took way too much stuff. But in our defense, we were packing for like 2 different climates, like winter, snow, winter, like 18-degree versus summertime shorts. Yeah, again, we took way too much luggage, but that's a video for another time. Okay. So again, 30 days, 2 kids, my mom, a completely different hemisphere, and one big question: could our family build a life in South Africa? So again, hey everyone, I'm Dr. Nicole McCarty, and in this series, I am bringing you inside our family's 30-day scouting trip to South Africa. This wasn't a vacation. It was an exploration of life, of culture, of community, and the possibilities, right? And of course, we did some tourist things, let's be clear. And of course, we took a lot of pictures and video, let's be clear. However, we came here asking questions like, could we live here? Would our kids thrive here? No brainer. What would life actually look like here? And today I want to start like at the beginning. I've been posting things here and there, but today I'm going to kind of start you from the beginning and take you through. So if you're considering relocating or considering trying, world schooling or something like that, it doesn't necessarily have to be South Africa, but hopefully whatever you learn here will be of value to you when you are planning your own scout trip to the place of your choosing, Or, a lot of people ask the question, like, where did this come from? Like, why did you decide to do this in the first place? And yes, there is a testimony that comes with this. We're still in the journey. And so I will share very soon. So yes, that's all I would say about that. Okay. We'll table it for a little bit, put a pin in it, as they say. But in addition to that, like the question that started it all, because every big journey starts with a question. Even when you're given a charge, it still starts with a question. You still have questions. We're humans, right? We're inquisitive by nature. And so for us, that question had been quietly growing for a while, but it wasn't something like, it was something like we talked about when we got married. We talked about it like right before we had kids, which was right after we got married. And it was something we kind of talked about, but I don't know if we ever really gave credence to it, And, God is funny. God is real funny, because we did pray for this and we said we wanted it. And then now we're looking back, we're like, well, look at that. So anyway, but of course the question is, and if you're considering something similar, is what would life look like or what would it look like to experience life outside of the United States, outside of what is familiar, right? Or unfamiliar. I'll leave it at that. And so we're talking about not just traveling, not just visiting, but really exploring another country, another place, as if we might live there. And if you're a part of the Black American community, you may know this conversation very well. And you may also know that it's been picking up traction. It's a conversation that's been growing over the last several years. And so more and more families are asking these types of questions. They're having these discussions, and they're realistic discussions. It's no longer like hypothetical, oh, it would be nice to, no. And so we're asking questions like, where could our children grow up with expanded cultural experiences? Where could we feel connected to something bigger than the rhythms that we've always kind of known and fallen into? And, you know, it's a part of our testimony, but even then, South Africa checks these boxes, right? Keeps appearing in these conversations. And really, it's not just South Africa. It's, you know, Africa as a whole, right? There are many, there are 54 countries in Africa on the continent. 54, 52. Okay, I might be wrong. I'll correct it and I'll put it down. I'll put it on the screen because I got to give right information. But there are a lot of countries to choose from. But eventually we asked ourselves, like, what if we actually went, you know, and what would that scouting trip look like? And when thinking about it, it can be a little overwhelming. It can be, I will not lie, you know. So first, let's talk about like why South Africa, like why it resonated with us. It's a fascinating place, beautiful. It's incredibly complex. It's beautiful, gorgeous, breathtaking. And I don't just mean Cape Town either. And it has deep history, deep pain, deep resilience, deep culture, but it also has something else. It's got community, y'all. And it's different. And I've said it in other videos, but it's different. And the more we started learning about South Africa, the more we heard about the concept of community, and it kept showing up in conversations. And that concept is Ubuntu. Ubuntu. It's often described with the phrase, I am because we are. Let that sink in. I am because we are. Community, y'all. And it speaks to the idea that our humanity is deeply connected and intertwined to one another. And so as a family that values wellness, that values community, that values meaningful connections, that idea resonated with us deeply. But reading about a place online, doing as much research as you possibly can, and experiencing it in real life are two very different things, okay? So instead of just researching, we decided to experience it because that's the only way, right? Hence the scout trip. And so here's where things got interesting. We didn't want to come to South Africa like tourists. It was a very intentional trip, planned, executed. God moved on our behalf in a magnificent way, in a beautiful way, and orchestrating our connections. I don't know if I could have done that in and of myself. So that was definitely divine. And we wanted to experience life the way people live their experience life. And that meant making a very specific decision. So that leads me to my next point. Like, why did you choose 30 days? Well, I'm glad you asked. Most international trips, they generally last about a week, maybe two, right? But that amount of time only allows you to still see like the surface of a place as a tourist, right? You don't really get in deep. You don't get in deep and go like the locals. No, live like the locals. You don't do that. And so we wanted to see what everyday life there would feel like, what the mornings felt like, what the evenings felt like, what the grocery stores were like, what shopping was like, the neighborhoods, the various neighborhoods. Would any of them resonate with us? Could we see ourselves and our family growing and thriving in any of these places. The schools, even though we're homeschooling, but you still, you still check out the schools a little bit because you want to know, just in case, right? What it feels like to move through the different areas of the city. What does the rhythm of life feel like? And you simply can't you definitely can't read about those things, and you definitely can't feel those things in 5 days. You can't. So we made a decision, 30 days, right? Long enough to start seeing beyond the tourist eyes, right? The tourist layer, the tourist bifocals, long enough to see that past that. And granted, a lot of times when people start exploring the idea of uprooting a family or what have you, bringing the kids is not something they do, right? For a number of reasons. I'm sure, number one, it can be expensive. It can really be expensive. Number two, you don't know what you're walking into. And so sometimes it's just easier for you and your spouse to go. And then you'll be like, oh, okay, then we can bring the kids back, right? But when asked of why we brought the kids, well, because they're part of the family. Wouldn't it be easier to explore a place like this as adults first? And the honest answer is yes. Because if you've ever traveled with little people, Father in heaven, it's a lot, right? So yes, it probably would have been easier, but that wasn't the question that we were trying to answer. The question we were answering was, would this place work for our whole family? So our whole family had to travel, not just us. See? Exploring would it work for them? You also need their curiosity, their friendships, their sense of belonging. What does that look like? And if we really wanted to explore it honestly, they needed to be a part of the experience, And something amazing happened when we brought them. They didn't necessarily see the world through the same lens as we did. They were curious, they were adventurous, they were observant, they lived in the moment, and sometimes they noticed things that we may have completely missed, to look through the eyes of a child, right? So yeah, definitely worth it. Definitely what we should have done. What we were hoping to learn. This trip has several big goals. Okay. Like I said, very intentional, planned, right? We wanted to understand, what daily life in South Africa actually feels like. We wanted to explore neighborhoods. We wanted to explore homes. We wanted to explore community. We wanted to see where families live, right? Where the kids play, where people gather. And we also wanted to explore the culture and the history. Because, South Africa's story is powerful. A lot of similarities as a Black American and our history here in the United States, a lot of similarities. And there are a lot of differences as well. And so from the legacy of the beautiful and powerful Nelson Mandela to the resilience of the communities and the tribes that have endured so much, this country carries stories that the whole world can learn from, and we wanted our children to be able to experience that firsthand, right? It's one thing to read it in a book. It's another thing to live it, to see it, to walk it, to be in the place. And so that was important for us. When people ask questions, they're like, well, aren't you nervous? It's like, no, I wasn't nervous at all. I wasn't nervous about South Africa. Once I was in the throes of things, it was just managing all of the itinerary and the budget and all that. It was a lot, right there. I did as much planning as I could do beforehand, but that part probably made me a little nervous, but of course the natural question that we got was safety. Is it safe? Yeah, it is. I'm not even going to say anything else because if you watch my other videos, you already know. So yes, logistics, traveling internationally with kids. We planned as much as we could. I think we did fairly well. Navigating a place that's new. My he was in the military. I'm a free spirit. That's not really a thing. That's not a thing we run from. But I can see how it can be a little unnerving, right? For my mom, it was. She was definitely nervous. I was like, Mommy, why? But anyway, let me see what else. I don't know, like all the things that cross your mind, but we realize something. Growth almost always lives on the other side of curiosity, and oftentimes on the other side of challenges. And so sometimes the only way to answer a big life question is to go see it for yourself, is to do it for yourself. That's it, right? And so that's what we did. We packed up our family, we boarded a plane or a couple because we didn't do a straight through flight. It was expensive, okay? And we spent 30 days in South Africa just exploring a single question. Like, could this place be a part of our story? Could this place be home? We already knew the answer, but we just needed to experience it anyway. And so in the next episode, I'm going to show you exactly how we planned this entire scouting trip, because planning the trip the right way completely changed what we experienced. And so if you're curious about traveling to South Africa, if you're curious about traveling with littles, exploring expat life, simply expanding your perspective of the world, any of those things, or traveling to another country, shoot, this series is for you. Like I said, we're going to talk about South Africa, but you can apply this to any country that you're interested in, any country that you're thinking about. And so I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Oh, and comment. All the things. I would love to hear the country that you're interested in. I'd love to hear some of your questions. I'd love to hear, I'm an open book. Ask me anything. But the whole point is to share, right? Each one teach one. And what they say in class, like if you have the question, then someone else has it too. And so what we wanted to do is share our story and share from the beginning, right? As we walk through this process and take you along with us on the journey. And I think that's helpful because when you do that, it's easy to kind of see the finished product and be like, oh yeah, but if you miss all the walk-ups, and a lot of times there are a lot of walk-ups that occur before you actually get there. And so this is something that we wanted to do. We wanted to share. So if you know someone who you think might find this helpful, make sure you listen. Don't tag them. I don't really know how YouTube works. Share it. Yeah, hit the share button. Just share it to their email, their text, or whatever. WhatsApp. Okay. And we will see you next time. Love and blessings. Toodles.